Thank you. Welcome everybody to tonight's regional council meeting. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Dene and Cree people of the Fort Nelson First Nation, as well as the Dene-Zaa people of Prophet River and the Métis Nation who have lived and worked in our community for a long time. I also want to recognize the rights inherent in the treaty between our nations. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually, is being streamed and recorded. Are there any additions to tonight's agenda, council? Staff? Okay. Is there any public who wish to comment on tonight's agenda? In the room? Online? Seeing none, can I have adoption of the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Roper. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. There are 3 sets of minutes there from the Committee of the Whole, November 14th, Special Regional Council meeting, November the 14th, and the Regional Council meeting on November the 14th for adoption, please. So moved by Councillor Enoch, second by Councillor Roper. Are there any errors or omissions in those 3? I have none. Staff, any errors or omissions? No. Okay. All in favor of adoption? Opposed? Those are adopted. Is there any business arising from those minutes, council? Questions? Seeing none. Staff, any business? Thank you. That brings us to item 7 on the agenda. Petitions. We have 1 petition tonight. Welcome, Kim, the Community Coordinator for Wild Safe BC, here to give us the annual report. Yeah, this one. Welcome.
So Wild Safe BC program is winding down. November 30th is the contract ends, and I have an obligation, or we're mandated to come and see Mayor and Council an annual presentation or report, and then my paper copy should follow shortly within about a couple of weeks. We're just doing some tweaking on it. We'll start out with smoke. Smoke, certainly, we all know we had a lot of smoke this year, so it certainly affected bin tagging. It certainly affected door-to-door canvassing, as well as the attending of some outdoor events. I don't do well in smoke, but we got a lot done, but there were things we just didn't do because of it, and it is what it is. We were able to do 7 bear spray and or bear safety presentations to a total of 33 people. We did 4 Wild Safe Ranger programs to 64 kids. 7 display booths with about an attendance of about 695. So that was the street festival, Fort Nelson First Nations Culture Days. I think it was at the Farmers Market once, the Fun Run, Teddy Bear Picnic, Earth Day, Culture Fest. We were able to reach 346 homes with door-to-door education. Of those, 38 of them were in person. We placed 212 warning stickers on bins. 42 for being out too early, 120 for being out too late, and 50 for sitting out on the curb overnight. That's 29 more than 2022. And 7 of those, on top of that, 7 of those addresses were forwarded to bylaw. So they were multiple. I was just done after 3, 4, 5 stickers. I'm done. And that goes off to bylaw, and they do whatever they need to do. We gained a few followers on Facebook. We started out with 421, ended with 459, and I was able to place over 125 posts were made between May and November. We also saw an increase in phone calls and private messages. So it's clear my number's out there, and it's clear that people are phoning it. And I think they're calling it more than they're calling the 1877 number. We attended 4 houses to have a look at possible attractants. These were homes where a bear was continuing to visit, each and every night or each and every afternoon in some cases. One was just the nature of where her house was. There was really no attractants other than bush. Everything else was good, but the other 3 all had issues that they corrected right away once they were pointed out to them. We continued to monitor commercial bins. We had to speak with 4 businesses, 3 for garbage and 1 for storing used grease out back. Both campgrounds continue with good practices. We're very lucky here. We only actually spoke to one camper all year. That's something that we do as I drive through the campsites and just have a look. I usually go about 8 o'clock when we hope that they're getting ready to settle in for the night, and then hope that their picnic tables are cleared off and everything's put away. And for the most part, people are really good. We did some Indigenous engagement and awareness. I attended the National Indigenous Days. We did set up a booth for the Culture Days. And then I took a 4-hour online seminar working effectively with Indigenous peoples, which was actually a really good course. And our new shirts are orange, and I really quite like them. Challenges, same as every year. Volunteers continue to be a struggle. Social media continues to be a struggle. Those purple leaf trees continue to be a challenge. And again, we deal with complacency. People just, at the end of the day, they don't want to do it, they don't do it. Successes, we saw a lot of people picking their apple trees. Apple trees really weren't an issue this year at all. Apples were out early, which did catch a couple of residents off guard. And we did some door to door, and once we went to those homes, usually within 2 days, they had those trees picked clean. So they were a lot quicker this year to respond than years past. So that was good. It also probably helped that bear was not leaving those areas. It was what it was. Community engagement. We had that meeting. It's a success. We can tick it off. We did it. As for, was there any objective met? Probably not. There wasn't a lot of people attend. But we did it. That's what they wanted, and it is what it is. Moving forward, if Mayor and Council wishes to continue to pursue the Community Bear Smart status and continue working with WildSafe BC, there's still a number of recommendations in the Human Bear Conflict Management Plan. I think it's time to have a look at your deer, the increase in human deer conflict. I'm actually really surprised that we haven't had an incident with the deer. We had a crazy deer up at my house in my neighborhood last night. I don't know what his problem was, but I don't know if he ate something or if something was chasing it, but I have never seen a deer behave the way this deer was behaving, and I couldn't see anything chasing it. So I didn't go outside because he was all over the place. Probably encourage businesses to get on board with the business pledge. It's not something I've had a lot of time to do. Businesses aren't normally and still aren't really a problem. They're all usually really good, but we do have that program. We should try and roll it out. And then you also have the arborist suggestions about some of your trees and ways to manage those. So I said I wouldn't be long. That's it in a nutshell. Done.
Thank you. And a paper copy of your report will be following, you say?
Yeah, it's I don't know, what, 9, 10, 11 pages, same as every other year. They just send it and they don't let me just bring it. They like to review it and make sure that everything is politically correct and whatnot.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Kim? Please. Comment?
More of a comment, but I really appreciate the presentation that was at the Bear community engagement session. And I'm wondering if maybe it was the wrong time of year because the bears aren't right in our face, but I wonder if hosting a session like that in May would be better, or when we're in the midst of bear problem season.
May was the original suggestion from me. June, July, August, and September would not be ideal. One, you'll have difficulty getting a conservation officer in here during the heat of that. 2, I don't believe you're going to have calm, cool, rational conversations with anybody in August or September. And I honestly would not attend if it was in August or September because I don't think the dialogue would be good. So apart from that, November was the next best time. Everything had calmed down. People, sober second thought, and we had hoped to have more conversations at that community engagement session. But I don't know that. It's like everything, right? You can hold 5 of them. We've had this before. We did this years ago, and we had 3 people attend. They were all my family. So it's not like we haven't tried this before. And that one was in May. So it's been tried, and it is what it is.
not for our themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys.
thank you very much, Kim. All right, that brings us to agenda items 8, the Environmental Advisory Committee diversion contest. So report number 6623. Welcome, Ms. Shepherd. Floor is yours.
Thanks. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as the report before you states, the Environmental Advisory Committee is looking for Council's support to host a community contest to promote the vermicomposting project and decreased waste in the landfill. There's a proposal to use funding from the local government climate action program with a budget of up to $10,000 and the understanding that if council's in support, there would be further staff time going into researching all of the things involved in running a contest of this size. Happy to answer questions.
Questions?
I have one, when we had the Environmental Advisory Committee meeting, we had talked about not calling it a contest because you need a license or something like that for that if it's a money prize, of calling it a challenge. Are we still looking at doing that?
I think we're just looking to get support from council before we invest any more staff time in looking at the legalities. I don't think we need a license because we're not selling tickets. So yeah, so that's where we are right now. I think the committee felt that they didn't want staff to be investing a whole pile of time in finding out the legalities and the if, ands, and the buts if council wasn't in favor of supplying funding to run the contest. So that's what we are before you tonight to seek guidance.
So I have a question about the funding process. I read in here that there's plenty of money that's been given to us, but I see that it's 80 cent dollars, right? It's 80%. So are you looking for the entire 10,000 to come out of this, or 8,000 to come out of this and 2,000 to come in kind or from someplace else in the budget, or is there other monies to add with the 8,000 to make the 10,000? I'm just wondering about the details of, because it's 80 cent funds, and so I don't know about the program and whether those 80 cent, whether every project has to be 80-20 or just 20% of the overall $210,000 has to be come from our budget, our municipality, or our in kind. Or I'm just wondering if you've thought about that. I know it's probably the first disbursement potential for this money, so I just don't know if we've looked at how we provide our 20% to the project.
Yeah, thank you. So we do have some feelers out there to make sure that the LGCAP would fall under its funding scope for sure. My understanding with the LGCAP funding is that the municipality has to show a demonstration of climate-related investment up to 20% overall for the project, that it's not specific to each disbursement of funds.
Right.
Essentially, there is a disbursement of funds each year for that 3-year period, and we'll report annually on the environmental or climate action related activities that the funds have gone towards.
Right.
And overall say what else the NRM is doing.
So is there anything else that we're doing that would fit that? Aaron? Oh, sorry. Deputy
Yes,
CEO?
there is. There are a number of projects and initiatives in our budget that we can account for that. Very small
20% of the,
yeah.
or even of the entire 210,000,
Of the-
whatever that
yeah.
we get. Okay, good.
And
So
the
we're
way I
doing
understand
lots.
It could be in kind too. It doesn't, you don't have to
It doesn't have to be
demonstrate that
direct
it's
budget.
20 cents.
Good. So as long, I'm good with this, as long as we're kind of keeping that 20% thing in the back of our mind, then and it's eligible. I guess that's the feelers that you talked about, make sure that it's eligible. I don't know why it wouldn't be. It sure sounds like a good plan. So I guess we are looking for a resolution.
I won't make it because you and I are in the committee, so maybe. maybe somebody else from around the table could make a
I
motion.
think
that
it's
council-
appropriate for you to
Is
make.
it?
Yeah. I think
Okay,
so.
then I would make a motion that council supports further investigation into the organic diversion contest that the EAC has submitted.
Seconded, moved by Councillor Growing, second by Councillor Roper. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. You might as well stay sitting there because you have another report coming up. No sense going up and down. Okay, administration report 6723 is on council committee representative appointments. I didn't see the need to change anything, but there is a requirement that we some of these need to be appointed by resolution, not just by the mayor. So to quickly go through it, the appointment for acting mayors is a decision by the mayor. So that's done. I kept it essentially the same as it was last year. Is there anybody who has issue with that? No? Okay. Standing committee representatives are appointed by me, and that's really just our emergency program executive committee. Left that the same. Our appointment for the select committee representatives is by resolution. So the community health plan steering committee appointed representative is Councillor Growing. So I need a resolution to appoint Councillor Growing as our representative. That moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Dickey. Any discussion? Councillor Growing, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. The Environmental Advisory Committee, the chair is Regional Councillor Lorraine, or sorry, Councillor Gerwing, and the alternate is Regional Councillor Dickey. Need a motion to move that. Moved by Councillor Enex, second by Councillor Souls. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Tourism Action Committee. The chair is Regional Councillor Enex, and the committee itself appoints an alternate. So I need a resolution to appoint. Okay, moved by Councillor Souls, second by Councillor Gerwing. Discussion? Seeing that? Okay.
Councillor Enex, has the committee appointed an alternate?
Not that I'm aware, but I will get back to you on that.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. For portfolio assignments, I've left them the same. I think there's some good work being done there. So that takes us all the way to other appointments. I'd like to approve these as a block. There's 14 of them rather than doing them individually. So they're all there for you to look at. So if I could have a motion to make all, well,
So
okay. I was trying to think, what term can we give to all of them? Just all the other committees, Okay, thank you. So moved by Councillor Going, do I have a second? Councillor Enex. Any discussion on those? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the animal control bylaw, 8.1, admin report 6823. Ms. Shepherd, please.
Thanks, Council. So the animal control bylaw has been at the table before for discussion about some of the disparity in it and some of the challenges that have come up over the last few years, working with both the local animal rescue, the pound keepers, and those working in animal control. We've been in touch with the SPCA over the last couple of years as well, and with numerous contacts in other municipalities, cities. So this report outlines some of the issues, and it's here for discussion to give some information about what the intentions of a bylaw update will be and some of the issues to cover. We're fortunate that we can sort of point to the SPCA as a provincial authority, and they've provided model bylaws for us to look at and see what best practices are. We've outlined some of the areas for further consideration, and Jaylene and I are both here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does council have any questions with respect to the direction that staff is taking with the amended bylaw? Councilor Going.
So as I read the report, it says that you are looking for council input into 6 areas, one of them being breed specific versus behavioral based regulation, nuisance animals, species of animals, standards of care, service area, and enforcement. So by tonight, you're looking for us to provide direction whether you are going to look at that part of the bylaw. So, okay, then I would speak to breed specific versus behavior based regulation. I am in favor of continuing with what's proposed in the dangerous dog provisions as outlined in the community charter, not as outlined in the SPCA.
Can I ask a question? So we have two areas of provisions in our bylaw, one with regards to dangerous dogs and one with regards to pit bull breeds. So what we're proposing is that basically all the dangerous dog type provisions be blended to be behavior based rather than having breed specific provisions regardless of the dog's behavior, and then dangerous dog regulations based on a dog's behavior. So some of the challenges that we faced with the pit bull regulations is around proving breed. So we've had a lot of conversations with vets in the area that DNA sampling is inconclusive when it comes to animals. And so based on a complaint or not, right now our bylaw says you can't have any breed or mixed breed of a pit bull variety in the animal control service area. So even if your animal appears to be of that breed, it's not permitted and can be enforceable. And so we've had animal owners who want to prove that their dog is not that breed, and there's no ability for them to do that. So that's one of the challenges in having those breed specific things. Pardon me. And then of course you run the risk of having a regulation that isn't reflective of the dog's training or behavior at all. It's just specific to the breed. So there's feedback on both sides. If you recall how that ended up in our bylaw. Yeah. But some of the sample provisions around behavior-based regulation allows for a bit more phased approach in dealing with animals that have had an incident. So currently, if a dog bites, provoked, or any other reason, we deem them dangerous. And then it escalates to some pretty high level requirements. And there's no ability for the owner to seek training or rehabilitation for the animal. Basically puts them on a blacklist forever. So some of the model provisions are around that phased approach of you have a aggressive, vicious, dangerous dog, depending on the behavior of the animal and the owner's willingness to undertake rehabilitation as well. So just a bit more information in terms of what those two kind of camps look like. And it would be a shift in our current bylaw if that's a direction council wishes to take.
So I'm certainly interested in understanding what it would look like to see a behavior-based regulation to say, because this is not the end of our discussion, right? We have a whole we've got a whole bylaw process we have to go through. So I'm interested in staff putting their thoughts with respect to this into a bylaw that then we can look at, and I suspect that it'll come forward with the changes so that we can see what it was and what you'd like to see it to be. And you know, I'm even though there are best practices out there, and even though there are very specific guidelines from the community charter and SPCA's policy, sometimes those don't necessarily work for any particular community. And so a combined approach sometimes can work. So I just don't want to see staff dismiss it out of hand and not, well, not out of hand, but sorry, that's the term that I use. It's not out of hand. It's just not do the work when I think the work, it's important for us all to see what potentially it can look like. So I'd like to see them do the work and we have the debate when we see what a marked up copy of the new bylaw. I also have concerns with respect to expanding the service area. I'd certainly like to see some of the statistics that we have that says that we've got issues in the rural area. An expansion of the zoning. I live in the rural area. I know it's one of the reasons I live in the rural area is so that my dogs have the ability to run more freely. The density in I've got 5 acres, and in town that would probably be 20 households. With my neighbor, that's 10 acres. That's probably 40 households. The density is, it's much more difficult to get all the neighbors together and decide what to do. And out in the rural area, it's me and my neighbor talking about the behavior of our dog. So, and then the cost goes up because, you know, patrolling the entire rural area is going to see significant. But having said that, I still would like to see, you know, the information that staff has or what wording that they would like to see with respect to what an expansion of the service area might look like. And we can get into the debate once we see the work that staff have done. Are there any other comments? Or would you like to rebut what I've said?
I won't rebut it, but I have gone through what the community charter says in terms of that and also what the SPCA guideline looks like. And I would stand by my original statement that I would prefer that we remain with what the community charter has to say as opposed to what the BC SPA has to say. And they make note also that it's essential that sufficient resources be allocated to ensure that the strategies outlined above can be implemented and enforced efficiently and effectively. And there's a lot of talk in here about professionals that work with aggressive dogs, which we don't have in the community. And so I think that the SPCA policy, the way I read it, takes advantage of a lot of professionals and services that we might not have in this community. So that was my concern. And the definition in the community charter is simple. And, you know, that's what we've been working on for the past number of years. And I mean, I don't want to get into a debate, but you know, how many dangerous dogs do we have listed? Like if once there's a bite, then the dog is deemed dangerous. Like, do we have this list and do we have a lot of dogs on it? So all of that would be information that I would need. But you asked for how council felt, and so that's how I feel. So that's why I shared it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
I feel it's how I feel about it. I like the concept of non-breed specific dangerous dog ideology, except for it doesn't match with nature and how it works. And so I actually have a hard time I too have a hard time seeing how to apply this. If my understanding of animal behavior, and I deal with a lot of animals, is that the default in those animals is actually the core. Training is less of a problem, or training or not a training is less of a problem than default. Default is, and I just will continue to illustrate it this way. If you have a blue heeler, if you prevent your blue heeler from, through all the training in the world, from herding, it will still be a herding dog. It cannot help it. It will herd you. It will herd you and your kids and your chickens and everything else. It just, they have that as their default. It's not because there's something wrong with them. And I think that using my logic in that respect, I would say that it'd be smart to expand the specific breed side of this argument to the ones that are the most common offenders in that. But I also know, like, I get the idea. I get the idea that the behavior base is really what you're after in the long run. That's really what we're after. And we wouldn't care if it weren't for all the instances of default in the dangerous dog breeds. I would love to see all those. I like dogs. I'd like to see all the varieties of them. So it's difficult for me to get my head around how to craft a fair but also realistic bylaw around this. It's difficult.
Councillor Andrews.
Since we're talking about topic one here, the breed specific and behavior based regulation, like with what Jaylene was saying on how to try to prove the breed of the dog is getting harder and harder, where I don't want to see more legislation put in, more work put in, which the new SPA policy seems like it would be a lot more work. But also, are we not going to have teeth anymore on the community charter if we can't prove the breed of a dog? Like, it seems like we might be in a transition period now where we might have to look at both of them. So as we're opening this up, it would be interesting to look at and have the community's input. So I like having the opportunity to look at both sides. I mean, like, we're trying to fix a bylaw right now that's not necessarily working for us. So to not look at everything that could possibly work, I think would be a miss. So, like, with that being said, all of these things I would like to look further into for sure. Like, do I think we need to expand the service area? Well, maybe not, but we're in the middle of looking at this bylaw, so the perfect time to consider it.
That's right. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so I think there's general agreement for staff to go ahead and develop. There's no decision to be made here. It's just you're looking for direction, and I think the general consensus is that we want to see the information backed up with the information that you'll use, and we'll move forward from there. Thank you. When are we expecting that to come forward?
We committed to have a draft in front of you by the end of the year, so the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
We were well along, but we didn't want to invest a ton of time in some of the major sections if they weren't supported. So what I hear is that you'd like to see all the options spelled out. So we'll get it together and get it in front of you. What's that?
Yeah, we didn't make it any easier for you then.
No.
Yeah, okay.
But at least it won't be time well wasted. So that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That moves us to correspondence. So there is a letter there from Northern Rockies Accessibility and Inclusion Committee for discussion. So can I have a motion to move that for discussion, please? Moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Souls. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Does staff has any comments with respect to and it's first time this has come to us. It's a letter asking for letdowns in parking areas. Seems to me that there would be some costs involved, and it short of any other discussion that anybody might have, I think we should probably flip this over to our staff for them to come back with a report with respect to cost and opportunity to explore these requests by the committee. Councillor Andrews.
Is it too late to have this integrated potentially into our downtown revitalization plan? Are we too far along on that to potentially add something if we decided?
Well, we haven't done much with it, so
Lots of presentations and stuff with it. It seems to be quite along the way, but this seems something that could fit hand in hand with it for sure.
It could go hand in hand with it. I think probably the committee is looking for something much more quickly than I think what we were anticipating the downtown revitalization total project would look like, but including it with the concept of the trails and making sure that it's accessible is certainly something that we could ask staff to incorporate into the downtown revitalization. Sure. Will staff take it as direction then that we flip this over to the appropriate group of staff to look at it?
Yeah, I think our intention is to have a report coming in the December meeting with an update on the work so far towards the Accessible BC Act and some parking consideration.
Okay, good. Thank you. There are 4 items for information. There is a letter from the Minister of Housing. There's a letter from Lisa Bear, Minister of Citizen Services. There is a letter from us to Minister Ma. And then there's our council information package from November 22nd. So a motion to accept those for information. Moved by Councillor Dickey, second by Councillor Roper. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. There are no new business items. Standing items for discussion, councillor reports. Are there any councillor reports? Councillor next, please.
November 18th, I was lucky enough to go to the Snowball put on by the Women of Influence. An incredible night. Those women did a great job, a lot of work. Everybody there had a great time. November 21st, I spent much time with you guys at the CF Corp shareholder meeting. That same day, we had the Health Professional Appreciation Night up in the Curling Lounge. The following day, I helped sort and deliver the leftover food and items that were there. We delivered them to the Fort Nelson Hospital, the ambulance station, Grace Manor and Heritage Place. They were all really excited to get those. That same evening, we had the Human Bear Conflict Community Engagement. The following day, we were on Zoom with the BC Hydro Long-Term Resource Plan Community Session. And this past weekend, I was sitting at the rec center all weekend with a whole bunch of people selling 3 not-for-profits raffle tickets. And last night we had the annual AGM for the Historical Society. And now we're here.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Growing?
So in addition to the government transfer, community forest and the OCP overview, community of the whole meetings, I attended the Environmental Advisory Committee meeting November 22nd. You got a brief look at what we've been up to, but I just wanted to ensure council that this committee of council is solidly dedicated to moving forward with action that addresses environmental issues in the NRM. It meets every other month, and we have representation from up the highway, from Fort Nelson First Nations, from Fort Nelson as a whole, but we have lost a couple of members and are doing a membership drive. November 22nd, I attended the Human Bear Conflict Management Open House. It was not well attended, as we've all stated, but I had some really great conversations with the CO service and a few of the residents that attended. November 23rd, I attended the BC Hydro Community Consultation around long-term hydro service planning in Fort Nelson. The plan should be completed by the end of June 2024, and there will be another consultation process before the plan is completed. And a few of my takeaways, it was like an hour's long, but these are the few of the points that I took away from it. So forecast for electricity demand in Fort Nelson. There's going to be a little increase, as I mentioned earlier tonight, in the first 5 years, but then the next 20 years, it will be stable. Biggest uncertainty to power generating in Fort Nelson is the laws around climate change. 2042 would be the natural end to the current plant in Fort Nelson. So this plant should be good till then, unless they 2042, unless they change some more of the laws. And as of now, an alternative to the Fort Nelson generating station is unknown. 7 options were presented for the future, which could include renewable fuels. The local plant here could be converted to renewable fuel, geothermal, local biomass, carbon capture and storage, wind, solar, and battery combinations, smaller size units relying on the transmission line from to Alberta, depending on how you look at it. And then probably the most expensive option would be integration into the BC line. I asked the question around future emergency planning for outages. They had no input into that. November 24th, I was interviewed as part of the Rural Emergency Health Services Innovation Project. And just as a reminder, the purpose of this study is to understand real-time innovations in BC rural emergency health services. The communities involved, Atlan, Fort Nelson, and 100 Mile House. And then finally, November 25th, Saturday, I spent the day on Zoom attending feel sorry for me, attending the North Central Local Government Association board meeting. And as you know, I'm council's representative on this board. So some relevant information, they always come out with a board highlight package that you'll get in your SIT packages, but sometimes it takes a while. So I just wanted a few things that I wanted to share with you. Is Prophet River First Nations has joined the NCLJ, so that's exciting. And a reminder that their AGM takes place May 13th to the 16th in Smithers, and registration should be open in January. The NCLGA is hoping to host an addictions opioid symposium. They're not sure of the name yet, but sometime in June in Prince George. So watch for further details on that. This will be the first ever for the NCLGA. The website is being upgraded with a launch hopefully in December, and all of the resolutions that have been submitted, by member communities will be listed under each community. Each community is going to have kind of their own card with contact information and then the resolutions that have been submitted the past 5 years. So I thought that was a kind of a cool idea. And if we are interested in submitting a resolution for this year's AGM, the deadline is March the 8th. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so for myself, I attended the last meeting of the Resource Coalition on the 15th of November. The last bit of the information was being put into hard drives for each of the communities so that we'll have a copy of all the data, all the reports, everything that's been done since the coalition started, including back to 2014 when Mr. Griffiths was the CAO, or yeah, So there's a lot of information there that will come to us. So some good reports. A little bit sad for me. I was there the whole time, and I thought they did some really good work. Put out some good reports. Obviously, things changed around all of the projects that were supposed to go in the north, but they still did some good work, and there was good opportunity to connect with mayors around the region, new mayors. It was an opportunity for new mayors to talk to some of us that have been around a little while, and yeah, it was just a good networking as well as some of the work that they did. Then I actually went to the Petroleum Club Bonds Bill. And people say, well, what's that got to do? There's actually a lot of interest in what we're doing up here still. With folks in the petroleum industry. Many people approached me. Some bought me a few drinks, and we, when we talked about things that are happening in the Northern Rockies, and there's a lot of interest out there still. For some of it, maybe was nostalgia, the way things used to be, but I think people are still interested in what might come of the economy in Fort Nelson and how we move forward as a community. So that was interesting. I also met with CAO Barry and the BC Hydro Committee, looking at the future of hydro and electricity in the north. They were looking for some baseline information from us around what we thought were some of the better opportunities. I also asked, what would it take for Fort Nelson to join the grid? And they said it's the last of their choices because the cost is just so high. And even if they were to bring, electrify the Montney, it still would be a significant cost. I put it forward to them that, I had heard that Alberta was looking for a connection to Site C. And if that happens, would there be the potential for them to sell power or move power, not sell power, move power into the Alberta grid and then from the Alberta grid to us. It still would rely on the infrastructure that we had, but there's opportunity for us to increase the amount of electricity. And as Council Grewing, it says they had a very flat outlook projection with respect to electricity use in the north. But I'm a believer with, with a few hundred kilometers of three-phase power, we could probably electrify the entire petroleum upstream industry here, which would help them reduce their carbon footprint. And of course, it may take more power. So they thought that was a novel idea they hadn't thought of before, and we're prepared to take that away. So I'm interested in what they have to say. Councillor Grewing gave a good account with respect to all of the other potential options that they have, but this burning of fuels to make electricity is something this province wants to see finished, and so we'll have to see what that means for us in the future. I attended the Treaty 8 Christmas dinner with Chief Escotti Saturday in Fort St. John. Very good turnout there. I was able to interact with the chief from Soto and with our chief here at this band. She was there with her council, as well as the council from Prophet River. So it was a good opportunity to sit down and just have some open discussion about the North and our communities and Christmas and families. And it was just a good opportunity to network with them. So attended that. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get back in time for the Historical Society dinner, which was last night. So my apologies go to the Historical Society for not being able to make that dinner. And that's more or less what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks. I do have a meeting with Mr. Fair tomorrow at lunchtime. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, anybody else? Okay, and that is, do I notice the motions? Seeing none, are there any questions from anybody online? Okay, adjournment is in order. Oh, sorry. All right. I had it under my mind that was a meeting unto itself. Okay, so a meeting to go in camera for personnel matters, please. Resolution moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Roper. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, and we will move in camera. Okay, thank you very much. We are back to the regular meeting from the closed meeting. There is nothing to rise with the report at this particular time, so adjournment of the regular meeting is in order. Moved by Councillor Enoch, second by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, everybody.